They didn't just boo him, they tried to erase him, not because he was bad, but because he was never supposed to be here. Logan Paul didn't walk into WWE chasing respect. He walked in carrying years of hate, every scandal, every headline, every reason the internet decided he didn't deserve another chance. And wrestling fans saw him as an invasion, a shortcut, a stain, a reminder that fame had changed the rules. This is not a feel-good comeback story. This is not about forgiveness. This is about staying in a place that wants you gone, long enough that they can't get rid of you. This is the true downfall, and the redemption nobody asked for. Long before the ring, Logan Paul was already a public experiment. Fame came too fast, money came too early, and consequences came late, if they came at all. Every time he failed, the internet archived it. Every time he apologized, people assumed it was strategic. By the time wrestling entered the picture, Logan Paul wasn't a person anymore. He was a brand people loved to criticize, years of resentment. Logan Paul wasn't fighting opponents, he was fighting an audience that wanted him embarrassed. Most outsiders collapse here. They rush, they overperform, they crack. Logan Paul didn't. He listened, he adapted. He learned the language of the ring quietly, without asking for approval. He trained when cameras weren't rolling. He took bumps that celebrities aren't supposed to take. And when the bell rang, the one thing fans were waiting for never happened. He didn't get exposed. That's when things became uncomfortable. Because wrestling doesn't lie. You can fake popularity, you can fake hype, but you can't fake timing. You can't fake pain. And Logan Paul kept delivering. Every match forced the audience into a corner. The hate stayed, but the denial cracked. The reactions grew louder, the moments sharper, and slowly the conversation changed. Not online, but internally. Because wrestling fans fear one thing more than bad performers: legitimacy they didn't approve. WWE saw it too. They stopped protecting him, stopped softening him, stopped pretending he was anything other than what the crowd already believed: arrogant, confident, unapologetic. He became the perfect villain, not written, not forced, real, and the crowd responded the only way they could. They kept watching. By the time 2026 arrived, Logan Paul did the one thing nobody expected. He stayed. He signed a long-term, full-time contract with WWE. No celebrity schedule, no disappearing act, no safety net. Weekly television, long storylines, real pressure. This wasn't a flex, it was a gamble. Because now, failure wouldn't be quick. It would be slow, public, unavoidable. The contract changed everything. Because once Logan Paul became full-time, the rules changed. The excuses disappeared. The margin for error vanished. This was no longer a celebrity experiment. This was exposure, every week lived with no edits and no protection. And the crowd knew it. They smelled vulnerability. The boos didn't fade. They intensified, because now they weren't trying to reject a guest. They were trying to break a resident. Every mistake would be magnified. Every hesitation punished. Every bad night remembered. This is the part nobody sees: the travel, the isolation, the silence after the cameras turn off. Logan Paul had lived in noise his entire life. Podcasts, comments, headlines, attention everywhere. But WWE introduced him to something new: loneliness. On the road, reputation follows you into empty hotels. In locker rooms, respect isn't spoken, it's felt. And early on, Logan Paul felt the distance. Not hostility, something colder: indifference. In wrestling, that's worse, because indifference means you haven't earned the right to be disliked. So he kept showing up. Not loudly, not performatively, consistently, week after week, city after city, bruise after bruise. And then the pressure became physical. The injuries came quietly, not dramatic, not career-ending, the kind that wear you down slowly: wrists, ribs, ankles. Pain that doesn't make headlines but never leaves. Pain that forces you to decide if this is real or if it's time to quit. Most people quit here, because this is where wrestling stops being exciting and starts being expensive, paid in time, health, and pride. Logan Paul didn't quit, and that's when something subtle shifted. Not online, not on social media. Backstage, veterans noticed he wasn't disappearing after tough nights. Trainers noticed he wasn't cutting corners. Wrestlers noticed he wasn't protecting himself at their expense. In wrestling, trust is currency. And Logan Paul started earning it. Not through speeches, not through apologies, through work. The audience didn't soften. They didn't need to. Logan Paul wasn't chasing their approval anymore. He understood something critical. The crowd doesn't decide if you belong. Time does. As 2026 went on, Logan Paul's role became clearer. WWE didn't position him as a savior. They didn't pretend he was traditional. They used him exactly as he was, a lightning rod, a villain people paid to hate, a bridge between audiences that didn't normally overlap. And it worked. Ratings moved, clips went viral, moments traveled beyond wrestling fans into mainstream culture. Logan Paul became something wrestling rarely produces anymore. Unavoidable. But unavoidable comes with a cost. The schedule tightened. Expectations grew. Mistakes became louder. And the narrative shifted again. Not from fans, but from observers. How long can he do this? Because wrestling doesn't care about confidence. It eventually collects payment from everyone. The question isn't if, it's when. Logan Paul felt that clock ticking. Not in public, in private. The body slowed. Recovery took longer. Doubt crept in during quiet moments. The same voice that followed him his entire career returned. Maybe this ends bad. Fans would never forgive him. Some would never cheer. Some would wait forever for him to fail. He stopped trying to convince them, and that's when the strangest thing happened. The boos stopped sounding angry. They sounded ritualistic. In wrestling, that matters, because once the crowd reacts out of habit instead of emotion, you've crossed a line. You're no longer being rejected. You're part of the ecosystem. Logan Paul never became beloved. That was never the destination. What he became was something more rare in modern wrestling. Stable, reliable, bankable. By the end of 2026, the conversation around Logan Paul wasn't about whether he belonged. It was about what he represented. The collapse of old gates, the blending of worlds. The uncomfortable truth that talent doesn't always come from tradition. His downfall wasn't a single scandal. It was years of being written off. And his redemption wasn't applause. It was endurance under pressure that never left. Logan Paul didn't change wrestling. Wrestling changed what people were allowed to ignore about him. In a business built on exposing weakness, Logan Paul did the one thing nobody expected. He stayed long enough to outlast the hate. And in wrestling, that's the closest thing to redemption there is. Thanks, guys, for watching.